Good day, everyone. We are now in Module 3, ICT Policies and Issues, Implications to Teaching and Learning. Here are the module outcomes for this lesson. Discuss some ICT policies and explain their implications to teaching and learning. Explain some issues that relate to ICT policies. That is why for the whole duration of this um, lecture video, you will be seeing and you will be hearing some ICT policies now all over the discussion. Number three, identified safety concerns on internet, including digital safety rules. Okay, here are the contents of this discussion. We have lesson one, policies and issues on internet and implications to teaching and learning. And lesson two, safety issues on the use of ICT, including e-safety rules. So ito yung laman ng presentation na ito. So we will start with, of course, lesson one, policies and issues on internet and implications to teaching and learning. And let's try to look at the two learning outcomes or lesson outcomes of this lesson. First one, named examples of ICT policies which are applicable to teaching and learning. Number two, discussed some issues that relate to ICT policy. So we will be doing those things for lesson one. Globalization is a reality, and ICT has become a fundamental part of the process. A network society is one in which the entire planet is organized around telecommunicated networks of computers. The powerful use of network has broken boundaries, provided opportunities for inclusion and collaboration. However, there will also be a struggle for those who do not have access or those who are excluded, marginalized, and powerless. Thus, a need to establish policies in the use of ICT is imperative. As the Department of Information, Communication, and Technology, or DICT, says, the future has arrived. Now we have to ensure that we have a place in it. That is why we are now in this generation of computers. So we have to ensure that we are guided in using these technologies, no? So that is why we really have to have policies and regulations for the utilization of ICT. Okay, so new technologies have become central to the lives of every individual in this planet. So whether you are talking on the phone, sending an electronic mail, going to the bank, and of course using the library, watching news on television, going to the doctor, catching a flight, or seeing a movie, you are using ICT. So if we're going to look at our photos here, lahat yan gumagamit ng technology, no? If you're going to observe. So almost everything that we do in the modern world is influenced by the new technologies. So since a lot of things are actually to be done with technologies, that is why we really have to regulate, of course, the usage of these technologies. Would your life as a teacher be also influenced by the new technologies? I think the answer to that question, the obvious answer is yes, no? Because the presence and absence of technology impacted on how we deliver our instruction or our lesson. Should we live our lives to be controlled by technology, or should we control the utilization of technology in our lives and how? Of course, let's try to go back in the perspective of education, in the perspective of the teaching learning process that in the whole process of teaching and learning, teachers no should not be replaced by technologies. No, we should not be controlled by technology. And then of course, hindi naman ibig sabihin na we really have to control technology because obviously we can control technology. But then again, the bottom line there is we have to be partnered with technology for the betterment. No? Kung ano man yung betterment na yan. So one way of enhancing and regulating the use of ICT is to formulate and implement policies to guide appropriate decisions. So yan yung role no ng pag-formulate ng policies and guidelines because we really needed to have appropriate decisions. We really need to have appropriate usage of ICT, no? Hindi pwedeng ma-abused siya, no? And so on. Now let's try to look at how we defined ICT policy then, no? Kung ano yung ibig sabihin nito. So according to the Oxford English Dictionary, the term policy is actually defined as a course of action adopted and pursued by a government, party, ruler, or statesman. So again, it is any course of action adopted as expedient or advantageous, that is policy. And its operational definition, it is a plan of action to guide decisions and achieve outcomes, and that is true. No, for para hindi so that our decisions are directive, we have to have a framework. Ano yung framework? Ito yung policy. Okay. Thus, ICT policies are needed to put a roadmap or course of actions to be pursued and adopted by various governments, organizations, entities involving ICT. Now, a heads up, the one who is responsible in constructing a roadmap or course of actions ay ang tinatawag nating DICT, no? Or the Department of Information, Communication, and Technology. It should include principles and guidelines in the use of ICT, which cover three main areas. No? We have telecommunications for telephone, broadcasting for radio and television, and of course, internet. Most recent technological innovations increase the reach, no, and speed of communications, which can be grouped into three categories. Tingnan natin. Of course, we have the first one is information technology. The second one is telecommunication technologies, and the third one is networking technologies. Now, as for the information technology, it includes the use of computers, which has become indispensable in modern societies to process data and save time and effort. So what are needed will be computer hardware, the peripherals, software, and for the user, computer literacy. So that is for information technology. The other one is the telecommunication technologies na include telephones and the broadcasting of radio and television, often through satellites. Telephone system, radio, and TV broadcasting are needed in this category for the telecommunication technologies. As for the networking technologies, this is actually focusing on the internet, the technology of internet. So, networking technologies, the best known of networking technologies is internet. So, as I did mention, but has extended to cell phone technology, voice over internet protocol or the VoIP. I think sa Zoom meeting meron tayong pa VoIP, and even in Google Meet, merong voice over internet protocol. So VoIP, satellite communications, and other forms of communications are still in their infancy. So in addition to internet, this category also includes mobile telephone, of course, your cable, your DSL, satellite, and other broadband connectivity. So part sila sa networking technologies. Please try to look at the differences, no, of the three so that hindi po siya ma-mix up because they are focusing a particular concept. Now let's try to look at the DICT roadmap map because I did mention this that the agency that will construct your roadmap or course of actions, of course, ang responsibilidad ana ay yung DICT or the Department of Information, Communication, and Technology. So in our country, the Department of Information and Communication Technology or DICT has formulated a roadmap to guide all agencies in the utilization, regulation, and enhancement of ICT. And that is true, no? Again, para hindi ma-abuse yung tinatawag natin na utilization, no? And then of course, for us to regulate our usage and of course again to enhance ICT. So each project has corresponding policy statements and guidelines because these are specific, no, in the utilization regulation and of course, especially in the enhancement of ICT. Next, we have here the ACOS na program. No, that is it is called ICT for Education or ICT for E, and this is the program under the ICT. So sila ang proprietor, no, or sila ang main person, sorry, sa ato ang gitawag nga ICT for E, no, that supports all of the efforts of the education sector in incorporating the use of ICT as well as in determining and gaining access to the infrastructure. I think the good thing now na sa pandemic kay ang DICT is very active, no? And then actually meron silang different chapters ba yung term na nandun sa Luzon, Visayas at saka Mindanao, no? They have a core group in Luzon, in Visayas and Mindanao, and they are the one who will be implementing programs or proposing program who will be proposing programs, no, for ICT for education. Okay, so that is nice because they are all of the people, no, coming from the DICT, and of course in the education sector they are working on it to have an access on ICT, and of course inclusiveness, no, kung baga. Okay, so among the policy again, as the CICT for our education or ICT for is a program under the DICT that supports all the efforts of the education sector in incorporating the use of ICT, as well as in determining and gaining access to the infrastructure. So yung ibig sabihin ng infrastructure doon ay hardware, yung software, the telecommunications facilities and others, which are necessary to use and employ learning technologies at all levels of education. So yun lang yung problema natin because we don't have a ano ba yan, we don't have enough money, siguro, or power to really expedite everything, no, when it comes to ICT. It's so sad, but then again, due to pandemic, I think merong pagbabago sa course of action. Okay. So, among the policy recommended programs that have applications to education, teaching, learning are the first one. So ito yung mga course of action ng DICT. ICT and Education Master Plan for all levels, including a national roadmap for faculty development in ICT and education. Ang kagandahan nito, maraming trainings ang ino-offer yung DepEd, no? And then siguro some of which pinipili talaga sila, no? Especially siguro yung mga ano ba yan, ICT coordinator, no, sa schools nila, um, they will be they will be offered with faculty development in ICT, no? And then a national framework plan for ICTs in basic education was developed also. The nice thing here is parang nasimula na ng pakonti-konti nung ang pag-integrate natin sa technology sa teaching learning process, no? And the way we accept it because marami pa ding tao ang hindi talaga gusto na merong ICT integration because for them it takes time and it's very complicated, especially our senior teachers. Number two, content and application development through the Open Content and Education Initiative or OCEI, which converts DepEd materials into interactive multimedia content, develop applications used in schools, and conduct students and teachers compositions to promote the development of education-related web content. So number two naman, meron tayong pa-open content sa education, no? We call it pala OCEI, wherein the DepEd materials will be converted into multimedia, very interactive multimedia, no? So, yun. So that is for number two. The nice thing, especially in pandemic, ang dami ng resources na naglipa na. Meron tayong tinatawag na open resources. Number three, establish community e-learning centers called eSkwela for out-of-school youth, providing them with ICT-enhanced alternative education opportunities. This is nice because the basic ed perhaps cannot do this, no, alone, no. Uh, since we are to provide them a ICT enhanced alternative education, dapat meron talaga silang tinatawag na e-learning center, no? So sa kanila tinatawag nila itong e-eskwela. The nice thing, I think free lahat, no? Okay. For the out of school youth because again, this skill is very important. This is part of the 21st century skills. Okay, up next, sorry. Number four, FedNet is a walled garden that hosts educational learning and teaching materials and applications for use by Filipino students, their parents, and teachers. All public high schools will be part of this network with only DepEd approved multimedia applications, materials, and mirrored internet sites accessible from school's PC. This is nice, no? Because itong tinatawag nating FedNet, I think we also experienced, but I don't know if it's FedNet. I think the other one during my high school years, no, that um, they are providing computer sets sa among computer lab, and then there are specific multimedia applications lang dapat gamitin, no? Sila yung nagre-regulate. So that is actually a DepEd approved pala. So ibig sabihin, kung this is DepEd approved multimedia applications, yun talaga naka-screen siya. That for this particular computer set, ang gagamitin lang natin lahat ay Google products lang, something like that. Okay? So that is for FedNet. Next, number five, e-quality program for tertiary education through partnerships with state universities and colleges to improve quality of IT education and the use of ICT in education in the country, particularly outside Metro Manila. In e-quality program, no, this is nice because um, we get to partner to universities or SUCs na yung strength nila is IT. No, marami tayo diyan. May Center of Development or Center of Excellence sa IT. Hanapin natin sila. We can connect with them for possible programs no na gagawin, especially for outside Metro Manila. Next, Digital Media Arts Program, which builds digital media skills for government using open source technologies. Yung concept ng open source, no, the good thing here is na naging essential siya. It is because of this pandemic, no. Particularly beneficiary agencies include the Philippine Information Agency and the other government media organizations, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, the National Commission for Culture and Arts, and other government art agencies, state universities and colleges, and local governments. ICT Skills Strategic Plan, which develops an interagency approach to identifying strategic and policy and program recommendations to address ICT skills demand supply type. Siguro ang kailangan lang talaga natin intindihan, this is good, no, the ICT Skills Strategic Plan. Because this is now the time, no, to lay down all the problems when it comes to ICT, whatever it is. May it be the ICT skills of the faculty members or the ICT skills of our students and as a whole, no, project. Okay. So titingnan natin. So that is why identifying strategic and policy and program are very, very essential, no, to prosper a particular program. So I think that is the last one. So all the seven programs were guided by the roadmap that embeds policy statements that relate to education, specifically in the enhancement of human development for teaching and learning. This is true. Okay. Next. Okay. So we are done giving descriptions on the DICT roadmap. No, although this is just very superficial, but then again, I believe that we really have to get the gist of the DICT roadmap. Now let's proceed to some. In the previous slide, we actually discussed the part of the DICT roadmap, and of course, the ICT for education, and then the program, and then, of course, the different provisions containing the ICT for education or the ICT for E. So let's go down to the issues in ICT and internet policy and regulations. We will start with the very general one, which is the global issues. No? So when it comes to global issues, access and civil liberties are two sets of issues in ICT policy which are crucial to the modern society. civil liberties, when we say civil liberties, it refer to human rights and freedom, no, which is the freedom of expression, the right to privacy, the right to communicate, and intellectual property rights. Actually, we have a lot of issues, roaming around human rights and freedom, no, specifically those specifically this freedom of expression. We do received and watched. Of course, we also have read articles, regarding news regarding with silencing the our what you call this, our TV anchors, for example, no, our journalists, no. Yung iba, mayroong mga balita na pinapatay yung mga journalists natin, and then they have this assumption that this is to silent the truth, no? That is why they are killing the journalists, and that is part of what we call the freedom of expression. And of course, we also have the right to privacy, the right to communicate, and of course, the very common one, the other one is the intellectual property rights. The access to the use of internet and ICT. So when it comes to access of the use and internet of ICT, we access means, no, access means the possibility for everyone to use the internet and other media. Now, in richer countries, basic access to internet is almost available to all with a faster broadband connections. No, I think sa pagkakaalam ko, ang may pinakamalakas na internet connection, specifically here in Asia, is Singapore, no? So ang very fast yung connection nila. And then there are still countries where access to internet is still a challenge, specifically Philippines, no? Uh, that is why during the administration of Pinoy, he actually challenged the internet service providers, no, of the Philippines to really advance their technology to of course to strengthen and of course to have a faster connection when it comes to internet connectivity, especially this time, no, during sa pandemic. Lahat na ng klase nagiging online na. So, of course, we do have our alternatives, no, yung tinatawag natin na modular approach. But if we're going to survey, I think marami talagang nag-online classes. And then, aside from they're having problems because they don't have money for loads, no, and then they don't have also gadget, but the main there is ang signal, no? Yung signal talaga yung napakahina. Therefore, they cannot connect well sa internet. The other one, I think the last one, is the infringement of civil liberties or human rights. What are specific internet issues on internet policy that have relationship, no, to civil liberties or human rights? So let's try to have an examples ng sa following slide na to. The first one, first issue we have is the freedom of expression and censorship. Under international human rights conventions, all people are guaranteed the rights for free expression. However, with a shift from communicating through letter, newspapers, and public meetings to electronic communications and online networking, a need to look into how this new means modifies the understanding of freedom of expression and censorship. No? Kasi nga, if I'm going to give an understanding for this, parang meron ng hindi na natin alam kung ano yung limit ng tinatawag natin ng freedom of expression. Hindi natin alam kung yung ginagawa ba natin is still part of what we call freedom of expression. Because also there are questions na merong tanong, no, um, right after doing those things, no, for freedom of expression, may nagtatanong kung proper pa ba, no, kung akma pa ba sa tinatawag nating freedom of expression. It is because most likely if we're going to look at sa social media, no, especially sa TikTok, that is why people really they're very sad because TikTok now is very toxic with people, no. And then they're trying to look at now, they are now judging if parte pa ba yun sa freedom of expression. So that is why we really have to look into how this new means modifies the understanding of freedom of expression and of course censorship. The UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights provides that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, no, conscience and religion. Likewise, the right to freedom of opinion and expression. However, there are practices that violate these provisions in the use of internet. Kasi nga, we are very free. Walang gaanong regulation, no? The internet cannot tell us that okay, this word is bad, no? Because everything can be input, no? It can be input, but then again, as to how you judge it, internet cannot do that, no? Just the people can actually yung mga taong bumabasa, no? Sila yung nagsiscreen ng inyong mga words, no, na ginagamit. So that's the time that really meron tayong different bases on what is the proper um, action when it comes to freedom of expression or freedom of opinion, no, whatsoever. So here are some examples of the violations, no, of the provision. So the first one, okay, okay. However, there are practices that violate these provisions in the use of internet. Some examples are the following. So we have the first one. Individual rights, let's run through lang now. Individual rights are given up in order to have access to electronic networks. MSNs, contracts provide protection of individuals like upload or otherwise make available files that contain images, photographs, or other materials protected by intellectual property laws, including but not limiting to copyright or trademark laws, unless you own or control the rights thereto, or have received all necessary consents to do the same. However, Microsoft reserves the rights in its sole discretion to terminate access to any or all MSN sites or services. Okay, so those are this is the first example, no? So practices that violates the provision, no, of the use of internet. The second one, censorship restricts the transmission of information by blocking it or filtering the information. Now, because of the concept of censorship, of course, blocking is preventing access to whole areas of internet based upon the blacklist of certain internet address, location, or email addresses, while filtering is shifting the packets of data or messages as they move across computer networks and eliminating those considered undesirable materials. The selection of sites that are blocked or filtered has been considered as an issue. Kasi nga, um, uh, this is actually if you're going to block something, no? If you're going to block something na material, somewhat like that, meron siyang problema when it comes to freedom of expression because there will be a lot. Like for example, if you are a blogger, no, and then you have the siguro the motive or the concept of your blog is all about politics, no, for example. And when we talk about politics, when you talk about the government of the country, that is still part of what we call freedom of expression, or that is your freedom, no, of giving opinion. Now, if the internet will block it, so no, because meron tayong concept of censorship, that is now an issue because meron tayong problema sa tinatawag na freedom of expression. So saan ba pwede magkatugma ang tinatawag nating freedom of expression and of course censorship? Okay? So that's it, no? And then of course, do we have another example? Okay. I think pa may warning dito. Okay. Warning, when you are surfing the web, okay, when you are surfing the web, you may think you're anonymous, but there are various ways that information about you or your activities can be collected without your consent. Yes, no? Um, Automatically, your some of the websites, no, and then when you are browsing, some of the websites are actually collecting your data. That is why there are people, and also, by the way, merong mga tao na for them not for them to think, no, na walang mga collecting data, no, coming from them, they will use incognito, no. But then again, incognito, that is not an assurance that there will be no collection of data. Meron pa rin. You just have to read, no? 'Di ba? If you're going to open an incognito tab, you have to read yung nasa sa screen, and you will know kung ano lang yung makakolektang data. Okay. The third example we have, no, defamation actions may be used to silence critics. this action deters the freedom of expression. That is why, no, because kasi nga, uh, when you talk bad, when you talk bad to someone, you can actually be filed with a case, no? You can be sued actually, no, with I think this is defamation. And because of because of that concept, marami tayong nasa silence na critics. Now, that's the problem of what we call freedom of expression. If we're going to look at here, the concept of censorship and freedom of expression is very opposite, no? You are censoring something, you are covering something, therefore there has to be a problem with that when it there must be a problem when it comes to freedom of expression. Okay? Kasi nga hadlokod man ka, okay, I will file a case no defamation. So okay, that's defamation, and then I think magbabayad ka ng danyos, no? So moral damages. So you can actually pay for that. And then that deters the freedom of expression. Okay? Next issue. Now we are done with freedom of expression and censorship. Now try to reflect the concept of freedom of expression and censorship. Issue number two, okay, talked about privacy and security. Privacy policies are an issue. Tama, no? Yun ang common natin na, ay, ano ba to? Bakit yung mga data natin sa Facebook, bakit lumalabas? I do not know if you're very if you if you know kung yung nangyari kay the one who created the Facebook. He was actually called by the government of US because of some problems of privacy policies, no? There are a lot of data na nakalabas, no, sa Facebook. That is why yung ang security sa Facebook is very strict na because of that. So privacy policies are an issue, and that is true. Most commercial sites have a privacy policy. When someone uses a site and clicks I agree button, it is as if you have turned over private information to any authority that may access it. Diba? That is why para siyang ano no, para siyang disclaimer na okay, okay. But then again, the bottom line there, you're actually giving them the authority to disclose the information, whatever it is. No? Okay, so there are several types of privacy as shown by the following examples. The first one, for most, privacy means personal privacy, the right of individuals not to have their home, private life, or personal life inferred with. No, that's our concept of privacy, personal privacy. Di dato pwede ibalaan nga kinsa ato ang kalaguyo atong jowa, for example. No, ang address atong balay, like for example. Okay, so that foremost mo na atong definition of privacy. Now, the second one, privacy of communication, refers to the protection from interference with communication over the phone or internet. So this is another concept of privacy. The first one is personal privacy. The second one is all about privacy of communication. So yung mga wiretapping, somewhat like that, that is actually that you will break the law when you will be doing wiretapping. No, no, hello Garci. Okay. Number three, information privacy is related to the use of computers and communication systems, which are able to hold and process information about large numbers of people at a high speed. Information privacy pod, like for example, yung mga data natin, we are sending data from DFA, for example, kanang sa GSIS, for example, kana siya. So we call it information privacy because it actually holds large numbers of people at high speed. And then the data put individually bugat na pud kay siya because there are a lot of very private kaayong mga information. So those are the several types of privacy. Now we have personal privacy, we have privacy of communication, we also have information privacy. Okay. The third issue we have is the surveillance and data retention. The use of electronic communications has enhanced the development of indirect surveillance. In the indirect surveillance, there is no direct contact between the agent and the subject of surveillance, but evidence of activities can be traced. Okay. The new and powerful form of indirect surveillance is what we call the data valence. Data valence is the use of personal information to monitor a person's activities, while data retention is the storage and use of information from communication systems. Okay? I hope that is very clear, no? When we say indirect surveillance, hindi kailangan, di ba, kanang sa mga agents sa salida na meron silang i-hire na private investigator, no? And then the private investigator will actually follow the subject, no? Kahit saan siya magpunta, whatsoever, kung ano yung tinawagan, blah, 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 and so on. Okay. At some point, we can label that as direct surveillance. But for here, no, and for this generation, with the concept of technology, we have here the concept of indirect surveillance. So again, there is no need to have a physical interaction or whatsoever, no? But then again, you can trace the activities of the subject. Okay. So we have here, of course, by that, ang kato siya nga type of surveillance, that is what we call data valence, no? All you have to do is to use the personal information of the person to know the person's activities, no? And then ang data na makukuha, we call it data retention, and data retention is the storage and use of information from communication system. So that is the concept of surveillance and data retention. I hope that is clear. Okay? So there is very little that can be done to prevent surveillance. Okay, what can be done is to change the methods of working to make surveillance difficult. This is called counter surveillance, okay, or information security. If it refers to computers and electronic communication. So yung iba, ang ginagawa talaga nila, nag-hide talaga sila ng kanilang activity sa internet. Okay. I don't know ang siguro ang ginagawa ng iba to redirect it. I think one of the concept of doing that is the use of VPN. No, somewhat like that. So the whole system will be redirected to somewhere and so on. Okay, so that is what we call counter surveillance or information security. Again, of course, this is in the concept of the computers and of course electronic communication. The next issue we have, I think this is the last one, issue number 4, e-pollutants from e-waste. This is actually a very big problem in other countries, no, especially in Japan. Okay, not so in the Philippines. Large amount of e-waste is generated by ICT, and that is true. And the problem here is that they're very bulky, no, dagko kaayo. There are in particular terminal equipments used for computing. There are PC, laptops, for broadcasting, we have television and radio sets. Telephony, we have fixed and mobile phones. And peripherals, no? For example, our fax machines, printers, and of course, our scanners. So the accumulated e-waste is due to rapid turnover of equipment due to rapid improvement of software. Like for example, yung mga siguro yung mga ano natin, mga TV, di ba? Grabe ang upgrade, no? Sige, nagikan sa may paumbok sa likod, nagiging flat screen, no? And then marami pa yung klaseng pa flat screen tayo. If we're going to get an example which is very exact is our mobile phones or smartphones. If we're going to observe Apple, they actually tawag dito, they will give I think siguro mga dalawang models in a year, no? So that's very fast. Anong ginagawa sa mga old na mga models, they threw it. So that's the problem of this particular issue, no? E-pollutants from e-waste. Because na, nagka ano yung generation natin, no? Nagkataas yung generation natin, yung improvement naman ng technology po getting faster. Okay. So while material waste can be destroyed by crushing, toxic material brought about by the different equipment requires utmost management, no? Because there are a lot of toxic material, no? So the quantities of e-waste are increasing in both developed and developing countries. A very dismissal state is that there is a significant amount of electronic waste that has been shipped from industrial countries to developing countries, using less environmentally responsible procedure. So yung iba, ang ginagawa sa iba, meron tayong mga pa-second hand, ano ba yan, no? Meron tayong tinatawag na yung concept natin na China made or something na um, hindi nila gagamitin sa ibang country. What they did is they transported it to developing countries, no? And then tayo yung gumagamit. And that is very less environmentally responsible according to them. Okay. And then remedies include standardization and regulatory measures to increase the life cycle of equipment before they become obsolete. So yun yung talagang concept sana, no? Dapat sana ipa-obsolete sa siya and then that's the time that we will change na naman. But then again, hindi, no? Because iPhone 6 is not an obsolete model, no? But then again, gilabay siya. It is because meron ng ibang iPhone level na iPhone model na naman, no? Which is iPhone 12 Pro Max, blah blah blah. Okay. Efficient extraction of toxic components and requiring the recycling by both consumers and equipment vendors are selling must be required. Sana dapat, no? There should have been a training for the consumers and of course to the vendors na when it comes to e-waste, dapat responsible din sila and how they handled it and how they managed it. If not controlled, then e-waste will tremendously affect climate change, damage human lives, and overload the capacity of the earth in carrying solid waste. Especially yung mga solid waste nila in one material, mabigat. Okay? So, and then of course, yung I think this particular issue is not actually issue long before, no? Kasi nga hindi naman gaanong ano ba yan, faster ang development sa technology and of course people naman they are not using that, no, yung gumagamit lang ng mga ganyang technology yung may pera lang talaga tsaka mayaman, no, but then again now since marami ng kompetensya meron talagang mga technological part or technology or gadget tools, no, na very affordable. Okay, I think those are the issues, no? Okay. So right after that, let's try to look at what are now the implications of our policy guidelines and all of those things to teaching and learning. Okay. So this is implications to teaching and learning for, okay. So we will try to look at first for the teachers and teaching. So how do the policy guidelines, projects, and issues relate to the teaching and learning? Okay. Marami siyang impact. Actually, meron talaga siyang impact. It is because technology is very prevalent in our class, no, in our classroom. Parang everyday ginagamit siya ni teacher. Not just actually the teacher, no, but also the students. Now, since our concern here kasi mga bata yung gumagamit, we really have to manage everything, no? Because um, if technology will not be or cannot be handled, no, kung hindi siya ma-handled ng proper, it could give you very negative impact. Okay. So there are great implications of this lesson to both the teachers who are teaching and the learners who are learning. A few of these are as follows. Okay, for the teachers and teaching, una tayo. The first one, guide the teachers on what they should teach that relate to ICT and how to teach it. Okay. So that's it. No, that's very sabotable. Number two, since ICT development comes so rapid and fast, teachers might be overwhelmed by its rapid speed. No, kay yung paggamit nila, sabi nila before ganito lang man. Yung cellphone may keypad pa. Nung dati ang dali lang na pagpindot-pindot. Pag ngayon, naka-touchscreen na siya, hindi na natin alam kung paano siya gamitin, no? Because the appearance of the smartphone is much complicated compared atong keypad, no? So, since ICT development comes so rapid and fast, teachers might be overwhelmed by its rapid speed, and that is true. Temperance in its use is a caution that should be looked at. Okay, that's true. Next, number two, technology should never replace any human teacher. So, ito yung gina-emphasize ko that of course no one can replace teachers and hindi dapat ma-replace yung teacher sa technology, no? The tools are support instructional materials for the teachers which are available for use. Again, support po siya. So the teacher should learn how to appropriately use them by By the term appropriately, you really have to check your um, if it is relevant to your topic and you think that that particular tool can give better understanding sa mga estudyante, okay, you be it, go for it. And then the human touch of the teacher is still a vital component in teaching, because uh, yung teacher kasi hindi lang siya nagtuturo ng concepts but also trying to touch the heart of our students also. So teachers should always be reminded that there are always limitations in the use of the different gadget and tools. Marami siyang limitations. That is why you can use as much as two or three gadgets in a class, no? Because they have their limitations. They have their specific what do you call this? Specific characteristics and features. So that is why hindi ka makakita ng gadget na yung hinahanap mo na perfect sa isa lang. Okay? So that is why you have to use variants of gadgets. Okay? Next, number three, there are rules and regulations that govern the use of technology. That is true. And of course, that is very imperative, no? Because kung walang rules and regulations, baka burara ang paggamit sa internet and technology, and then if we cannot handle it properly, therefore it will give us negative impact. Caution should be observed to protect individual privacy. So as teachers, you must be aware that the use of technology may jeopardize your privacy and security. Okay. Number four, all issues and many more shall be part of the teaching content, as each teacher will be encouraged to use technology in teaching. So that's it, no? Sa generation na to, and then sa umaabot pang generation, partner na talaga ng teacher ang technology, no? Okay. Vital gyud kaayo ang iyang integration sa teaching learning process. Okay. So we are now done talking about the perspective of teachers to teaching, no? We will proceed to the learners and of course learning. The learners of the 21st century are even more advanced than some of the teachers. That is true, no? Let us accept it na meron talagang parte ng ginagawa ng teacher na mas alam pa ng estudyante. Like for example, yung paggawa ng PowerPoint presentation. No? Grade 7 lang, grade 9 pa lang yan, ikaw teacher na. But then again, pag pinagawa mo ng presentation, ang bongga ng presentation, mahihiya ka. Okay? And we have to accept that because this generation is very special, very technological, very advanced, no? Yung sa generation natin, kailangan pa nating kumayod para maging advanced kunuhay, no? Next, however, learners still need guidance on how to use it. So that's the problem because since they already know all the features of the gadgets, they don't know how to regulate their usage. And then, of course, if you will not regulate the use of technology, again, it will give them variants of negative impacts in the future. As there are positive and negative effects of technology use, learners should know the difference. Okay. Learners should not only know the benefits of technology use, but they should also know how they can be protected from the hazards that technology brings to their lives. No? Yung mga estudyante na nagsisend ng pictures, no, to someone, no? Hindi natin alam na yung website na nilalagyan mo ng pictures ay walang concept ng privacy and security, at yung picture na gisend mo doon, na post mo doon ay na-expose. Okay? So please do not be so kampante, no, with the things that you are giving sa internet, because by the time you will write something, by the time you will send video to internet and so on, everybody can see it. Okay. So the concept of privacy na mawala na gyud na siya. Ito yung gusto na privacy. Okay. Learners should take advantage of potential of learning support they can derive, such as the development of higher order thinking skills, which is very important in the 21st century skills, the development of learning communities through collaboration, the enhancement of skills to manage the vast resources, again, of the 21st century learners, and many more. So both teachers now and learners should be mindful of the e-waste that are being thrown away to the land and to the atmosphere. Thus, safety in the use of technology shall be presented in the next lesson. So that would be our next lesson. So I will give you a safety use of our technology. Sige. Next, the next one is lesson 2, which is safety issues on the use of ICT, including e-safety rules. So here are the lesson outcomes for this lesson. Number 1, identify and explain safety issues on the ICT. Number 2, listed, listed and applied e-safety rules in the use of ICT. Using technology is not a risk by itself, but uh, how it is used will be vulnerable to risks. That's true, no? So when improperly used, it will pose danger to the users in school and at home. What are the safety issues that are needed to be addressed by safety policy and guidelines? As future teachers, do you need to know all of this? As for my case, I really needed it. Okay? Kailangan ko talaga ito, the safety issues. Okay. And then as future teacher, do you need to know all of this? Okay. Next, let's try to look at the risk in the use of ICT and networking. Technology is a phenomenon that seems to be uncontrollable. That is true, no? Ang iPhone gali mag-release sila ikaduha sa isa ka bulan na pag yun sila yung mga gagmay nga model, no? So that seems uncontrollable. Despite the so many benefits for teaching and learning, there are also negative effects or influence on the learners. But then again, kayang-kaya pa rin. No? So hence, as future teachers, you have to be aware of how to safeguard learners in school communities where they spend most of their waking hours and also in their homes or facilities that provide opportunities to use digital technologies. Okay. Like internet cafes. Although ang mga internet cafe ngayon ang ingay kasi may mga naglalaro ng Dota, no? And then you will heard na hear nga na ay mag-cursing, no? So safeguard and protection should be the primordial role of parents, no, teachers, and schools. There are so many risks that we have to be aware of in the use of digital technologies. These may be in, this may include the following. Sorry. Number 1, exposure to inappropriate content including online pornography or extremism. Okay, yan, no? Mga risk that we have to be aware in the use of digital technologies. Yung mga, uh, can you send me and then I will send you money, send me picture, blah, blah, blah. Can you send the video that you are doing something and then ganito and then so on. Okay. Yun nga, ang sinasabi ko, whatever it is, kung sasagi man sa isip niyo that you will be doing something together with the internet, do not do it because you will be exposed easily and then you will be exposed in a very, very large population because internet na guna siya, no? So please mind on that. Number 2, lifestyle websites like self-harms and suicide sites and hate sites. Okay. Actually, sabi, lifestyle websites like self-harms, suicide, oh, pati kaayo, no? Number 3, cyberbullying in all forms, receiving sexually explicit images or messages. Ang cyberbullying karon, especially karon nga nag-pandemic, and then most of the people ay nakatunganga lang sa tinatawag nating computer no, na nag-i-internet lang ng bongga. So yung mangyayari now would be all of the things will be posted and blah blah blah, no? Ang iba ano pa yan, mga explicit chuchu. And then, right after some time, makikita nyo na lang yung mga mukha ninyo na nasa internet na, no? Sabog na sabog. Okay. So that is cyberbullying. Number 4, privacy issues including disclosure of personal information. Okay. Health and well-being. Okay. Number six, prolonged exposure to online technologies, particularly at an early age. Okay, mga risk, no? And then number seven, addiction to gambling and gaming. No, maraming gaming sa internet. Diyos ko. Okay. Number eight, theft and fraud from activities such as phishing. No, anyway, you will be. I will define those terms later. No, so kanang theft and fraud from activities. Like for example, ang dami na talaga nagkakalat ngayon na kumakalat na ano ba yan? For example, kanang sa website niya, this is PPI. Can you log in your account? Can you give me the password, no? Kaya nga, you would notice na I think halos lahat na ng mga websites, no, lahat ng mga establishments, companies, and so on, they will send you something na when someone is asking for your account, do not give it because technically, our establishments will not ask for it. Okay? Kanang bitaw mingon nga kanang sir unsay number sa imong kuan sir sa imong credit card and ano po yung nasa likod no? Yung number na nasa likod ng card natin very important yun. Very very important. So wag ninyong walain. Okay. Next we have is viruses, Trojan, spyware and other malware na kanagit siya no? I think ang katong naghimo og virus ano na to kung bago pa ba 'tong video akong gitan-aw but meron ako nakitang video na bata pa kayo siya, no napakabata pa niya and then hacker na siya. Parang gumawa siya ng virus, no, gisend niya and then if someone will click on it, of course they will receive the virus. Yeah. Next, number 10, social pressure to maintain online networks via texting and social networking sites. Yeah, social pressure it is, no? Grabe talaga makaka-pressure talaga yung social pressure na tinatawag natin. Because it will force you to do things na labag sa kalooban, no? Just because of the concept of social pressure. The next thing that we are to talk right after, no, talking about some risks in the use of ICT and e-networking. Right after this, we will be talking about a minor misuse of ICT, a little bit of that, and then a little bit of e-safety, a little bit of the network management, and then of course, I think the last part of this would be, yeah, the setting up an educational technology room. Okay, for minor misuse of ICT in school, some minor misuse made by learners include the following. So ato lang titingnan lang natin kung ano yun no because of course you'll be teachers in the future. At least no you will be in perhaps you'll be encountering this and then of course you can have solutions no. The first one, copying information into assignment and failing to acknowledge the source no that is the concept of plagiarism and copyright infringement. Ang problema dito no sa atin no siguro sa basic education dapat talaga matutunan na ito. This is because this is very basic na when someone asking you no to answer this one and then para masagutan mo siya, you will search sa internet or you will read sa magbabasa ka sa libro, na magkukuha ka ng mga words coming from the book and even sa internet, and that's it. Without acknowledging the source, no? And that is the concept of plagiarism and copyright infringement. So that is why infringement dapat talaga meron itong mga ganitong konsepto dapat binibigay na at pinapaalam na sa mga estudyante sa basic education. Okay. Para naman matakot din sila, no? Next, that is a minor misuse. The second one we have is downloading materials not relevant to their studies. They just have download everything, no? They don't check if it is relevant or appropriate to their studies. Next, misconduct associated with subject login, such as using else's password. So that's the problem, no? I think this is part, not really hacking, no? So that's it. The other one, leaving a cell phone turned on during class period and then ginagamit. Okay. So gigamit siya and then someone text sa pikas. Okay. Next, Unauthorized taking of pictures or images with cell phone camera, still or moving, no? Kanang magpicture ka, no? Picturean ni mo siya, and then without taking the consent of the person, no? And then you will post it. That's a very big no-no. You can actually get some moral damages, no? Kana siya. Next, safety. With all the above concerns and many more, how do we confront all of these so as to protect our future generation? E-safety takes care not only of internet technology but also of electronic communications via cell phones or mobile phones, game consoles, and wireless technology. Here are some issues of e-safety. And of course, it highlights the need to educate children and young people about the benefits, risks, and responsibilities of using information technology talaga. Because again, I did mention and of course I did emphasize that when 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 you use technology in a very negative way, no, not using it in an appropriate way, magiging negative yung epekto sa iyo. Okay. So the first one, here are some issues of e-safety. First, e-safety helps safeguard no children and young people in the digital world. Yung iba, I think I can give an example siguro sa YouTube. Sa YouTube, I don't know to kung meron din sa Netflix, but sa YouTube, meron ng YouTube Kids. Okay. This is to filter the content because although yung YouTube naman is very concerned with the content, wala naman talagang malaswa sa YouTube, no? But then again, there are things that is not appropriate for that particular age. Okay. So next, e-safety emphasizes learning to understand a new technologies in a positive way. Yes, that's correct. Another one, e-safety educates children about the risks as well as the benefits so we can feel confident online. Yeah, no? Next, the last one, e-safety supports young learners and adults to develop safer online behaviors both in and out of school, no? Pawintag, safer online, develop safer online behavior, hindi tayo nagpo-post ng hindi pwede, hindi tayo nang babash no, ng mga tao, for example. So that's part of what we call e-safety. Like, the next one is network management. So, safety in the use of management, let's try to run through lang, no? Para lang ma-inform yung lahat. Safety in the use of network in schools, especially sa mga university na nag-offer ng free Wi-Fi. Okay, kana siya. Or kanang sa computer lab. So, first one, make clear that no one should log on as another user. Okay. Kada labi ng kanang sa lab tech na to nga mga rooms no or kanang sa ICT lab kana siya. Next, require all users to always log off when they have finished working because especially if the computer is for public use, therefore merong papalit sa iyo and then what will happen now if your account is nakalagin pa? Okay. Next, maintain equipment to ensure health and safety. Provide students with access to content and resources through guided e-learning. Okay. Next, set up a clear disaster recovery system in place for critical data that includes secure kind of mga remote backup of critical data. Dapat naagyo na siya. So, ang atoang, for example, sa university na setup or sa College of Education, we have our multimedia center or our computer lab. The laboratory technician or the assigned faculty for that laboratory should have remote backup, no, and secure everything na nasa laptop because at least man lang sa laptop o computer, at least man lang kung meron tayong tinatawag na um, disaster recovery system. No, what I mean is that kung magka-problema because of some viruses and technical glitches ato, at least meron pa rin tayong kopya ng lahat ng data natin. Okay. Next, secure, what is this? This is secure wireless network to appropriate standards suitable for educational use. Yes. If it is educational, kaya nga there are times way back in IIT, yung estudyante pa ako, sa computer lab kasi nakaka-open kami ng Facebook, no? Kaya when we are doing our lab what do you call this educational technology task, Yung iba nalilate talaga because of yung Facebook pa. So what they did now is they filtered it, no, na hindi ma-access yung Facebook for this particular time. Okay. Kasi parang ginagamit din naming ano ba yan? LMS kumbaga yung Facebook, no? Aside from we have Google Classroom during that year, we also have our Moodle, no? Ang Among Mole, we still use Facebook. So that is why magiging available yung Facebook before ng 8 a.m. I think, no? And then babalik na naman siya, mag-off yan between 8 to 5. Babalik siya on the other side before 8 a.m. and then of course beyond 5. So babalik yung Facebook. Ang mariretain na talaga yung YouTube kasi nga gagamitin talaga. Okay. Next, install all computer equipment professionally and meet health and safety standards. Ibig sabihin, kung meron ka install na computer equipment, make sure those are legit, no? Legit na siya so that you will know that the performance of the computer is very healthy, no? And of course, or safety standards. The last one for safety in the use of network in schools, review the school ICT system regularly about health and safety and security. Okay. So the laboratory technician will do that, or the ICT technician will do that. No? Next is all about the password policy. This is funny because I am also guilty now of this. Only authorized users will have individual passwords. Okay. Users are not permitted to disclose their passwords unless they got permission from the owner or from the management. The equipment that keeps the personal information shall be locked, no, when unattended to prevent unauthorized access. This is so nice. No? So when it comes to password policy. Next one, computers should be set to a timeout if they become unused to for a certain period of time para hindi siya always naka-open, no? So maganda talaga no na after some time na walang gagamit mag-off siya and then you have to log in na naman. Okay. So for that, I think nami-minimize natin yung pagka-disclose ng mga personal information natin kasi nga na-off siya. Okay. Next, number 3, personal cell phones and mobile devices. All cell phones shall be kept away in a box away from the children or learners, and access is only allowed at break time or at the end of classes or when needed during the class period. Meron ako na-remember na isang teacher na nagko-collect ng cell phones, no? Para at isa sa uli yan after na ng klase. Pero merong mga times na parang nagrereklamo siya kasi nga why do we have to confiscate, or why do you have to confiscate our cell phone? Now, the concept of confiscation para hindi pwede, no? Uh, Hindi pwede or you are not allowed to confiscate no of a cell phone. Sir, kailan ba nagiging pag-confiscate ng cellphone? Yung ikaw talaga yung kumukuha, no? Ambina, kana siya, ambina, okay, ambina yung gikuha. Siguro merong iibahin lang siguro ang setup, no? Ipapaintindi, and of course, a change of strategy, how you sustain the ano ba yan, the talking, somewhat like that, no? Kasi break time mo siya ang ipanghatag ng cellphone. So dapat lang siguraduhin no as a teacher, you have if this will be part of your classroom policy, you have to write it para ma-remember ng mga bata. Okay? And then you really have to check sa kanila if they are very willing to turn in their cell phone, no, to turn in their cell phone and babalik after. Okay. Next. For cameras, yes. For cameras, taking pictures only from parents or caregivers and not from any other family member or friend while the child attends class. Okay. Next, any picture taken of children shall be on camera solely for the purpose. Next, I think this is the last one, the setting up an educational technology room. Now, schools that plan to dedicate a room where the students can access technologies for learning should include the following basic safety rules. The first one, provide till tables, till table, tables. These tables can be tilted and adjusted to the height of the users. Okay. So this will be considered no sa mga na-assign siguro sa accreditation, sa na-assign sa laboratory. I think this can be considered no kini siya. Number two, provide anti-glare screen filters, no? Para naman ah, yung katabi mo, kasi nga dikit-dikit kayo sa laboratory, at least man lang yung katabi mo, hindi niya nakikita kung ano yung ginagawa mo sa computer on screen. Number three, provide adjustable chairs because there are times that the chair is too high to you and then too low na naman, no? Of course, dapat if you will be talking about comfortability, dapat talaga para naka-level lang yung ulo sa laptop screen somewhat or computer screen somewhat like that. Okay. Number four, provide food support. Yeah, nice kina nice food support ang ato ang butanganan sa computer sa lab room, no? Kay para hindi siya nakakangalay, no? Na isang posisyon lang yung gagawin natin sa ating paa. Okay. Number five, make sure lighting is suitable. Yes, because para naman hindi masyadong, remember naka-keyboard pa yan, no? So that is why we really have to have a lighting, na proper lighting and very suitable. Hindi masyadong mainit, no? So siguro ang gagawin natin, gamitin yung puti lang, no? And then fluorescent lang puti, kaya siya kaya hindi ganong mainit. Next, make sure workstations are not cramped. No, that is why right after you use your station, you have to clean it properly. You have to arrange it properly. Okay. Last number, plan work at the computer so that there are frequent breaks. So again, plan work at the computer. Okay, so that there are frequent breaks. That is true. Okay. I implemented this when I also do this now. Okay, next. Most specifically, safety rules that can reduce risk of accidents in the working station should include no trailing wires across or around the room which people can trip on. Electrical sockets should not be overloaded. Yes, no, hindi pwedeng, especially yung gagamitin natin na pang 1,000 watts, no? Nagamit tayo ng plancha, nakasaksak sa, butang talag, nakasaksak sa printer, sa TV, and then meron pa tayong washing machine, naka-rice cooker pa lang sa sabog yan. Okay. Electrical equipment should be safety tested at least once a year kasi nga, di ba meron nangyari? I think meron ang daming storya na yung isang paaralan na nasunog and then yung nasusunog na parte ng paaralan ay yung ICT lab. Okay. Four, there should be adequate space around desks for two people. So that's the lacking part, I think, no? Sa atin. But this is very nice. Bags and obstacles should be stored out of the way. Yes. And food and drinks should be suitable for the working environment. Okay. Dapat din na, no? Okay. Yung iba, ang ginagawa ng iba, nagdadala ng pagkain inside the laboratory room. Now, hindi talaga po yan pwede. Baka mag-spill na siya and then maka-cause yung short circuit and so on. So, hindi talaga pwede. Number seven, heating and ventilation should be suitable for the working environment. Yes. Of course, sa mga computers, no, sa to ang lab, dili gyud na siya mawalan og aircon. Pero airconan gyud nato ng ato ang com lab para madali guba ang ato ang computer or laptop, for example. Computer. Number eight, fire extinguishers should be available. Yes. Nasa labas yan. Nasa labas yung, ano ba yan? Yung nasa labas yung fire extinguisher. Sorry, no? And then, dapat nakalagay yung fire extinguisher in a very strategic place or orientation. Next, number nine, fire exit should be clearly marked and free from clutter. No? Dapat klaro dapat malaki talaga yung mark na nasa gilid na fire exit. Kana siya. And then of course, sana dapat, no, I don't know kung included ba dito. Okay. Sana dapat talaga, meron talaga tayong tinatawag na simulation. No? For example, ano mangyayari kung may fire, kung may lindol, may tsunami, may ganyan. So, ano yung magiging storya ng graduate ng program na ito, no? Fire exit should be clearly marked. Actually, itong fire exit, itong mga fire extinguisher, blah, 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 ito yung parang kailangan talagang i-comply, no? I-comply talaga siya because hindi ka parang walang settlement sa particular place kung wala silang mga ganito, no? Yan, in a way, that is very technical. So that's not really our kuan. But I can just make sure that when we are to set up our educational technology, we also have our laboratory technician or ICT technician or computer technician para naman kung ano yung mangyayari sa parte ng ating educational technology, hindi tayo mag-assume, no? So, yun. Next. Okay, so there are more issues, policies, and rules. What have been presented in the lesson? Maybe the minimum, yes. I believe this is minimum, no, because there are a lot of technicals pa that you should learn. As you explore some more and engage in the different paths of aspects of technology for teaching and learning, you will find more details. Okay, so again, this is the end of Module 3. This is Fernando Siquet Engineer. Thank you so much for listening. If you have questions, do not hesitate to ask me. Okay? God bless everyone. Keep safe always.